trace this split between science and religion to, what do you say, the Middle Ages. There was this time when the Christian Church, the Catholic Church, was very oppressive towards scientists, and these brilliant geniuses were revealing a new picture of how the cosmos works and our place within this great solar system and universe, and so like Copernicus was the one who put forward this heliocentric well, it's not a theory, it's once you understand it, it's obvious, but it's not intuitive, because you see every day, you see the sun rise and set, and so the sun seems to be going around the earth, but that's because people didn't realize that the earth was spinning, and so it was just an apparent thing. So in reality, the earth and the other planets are all going around the sun. And so Copernicus realized this, and he wrote a book about it, but he held his book back and he held his ideas back because he was afraid of what would happen, because he knew that the dogmatic religious Catholic community are going to be against it. But he himself was very religious and Christian. So besides Copernicus, there was also Kepler, and there was Newton, and there was Galileo. So some of these guys escaped censure because they were cautious and careful, but Galileo wasn't so cautious and careful. He was outspoken, and for that he got himself excommunicated, and he was put under house arrest for espousing this idea. I mean, this is Galileo, the guy who invented the telescope, the precursor to Hubble and James Webb. And what did the church do? They persecuted this guy and other people like him. And later, people who were even more outspoken, they murdered them, they killed them, they burned some people alive, scientists, good scientists, brilliant scientists. And so, you find this situation where, like, this is the time of the Renaissance, and this explosion in new forms of art and architecture and new ways of understanding all kinds of things, And so this tipping point reached where all along the church had the power to control and to oppress and to but science itself was shifting the dynamic, so it allowed this vibrant intelligent middle class to emerge, which was solving problems, real problems in every sphere of life, in transportation, in communication, in energy, in textiles, in everything, so it became lucrative, and money talks and bullshit walks, so science became powerful, and science, the church lost its power, and so now scientists were free. And so by the time Darwin was at the age of 20-something, a young man, he gets onto the ship that's going on a voyage around the world, and he travels around the world for 4 years, getting off in these uncharted territories and obscure islands, and and meticulously recording and drawing and thinking and pondering and discovering new species and differences in species. And this one island, that's tortoise, has this kind of shell because of this kind of plants, so it needs to reach up to those plants. It's, and this kind of bird has this kind of beak because of these kind of plants on this island, but on that island the plants are different, so the beak is different. And he's just seeing that the creatures are so perfectly adapted, attuned to the environment, to their source of food, it really blew everyone's mind, but it's brilliant and it's extraordinary. Yeah, you gotta love that spirit of adventure and that yearning to know. Like wind the clock far enough back, you get to a point where there was only hydrogen, you know. So how did hydrogen become humanity, human beings? That's how it began. You can say this battle, this dichotomy, this struggle between the religious community and the scientific community. But yet, within the religious community, there are many scientific people, and they themselves have no struggle or battle. You get the extremists, and between them, there's a whole range of different kinds of people with different views. But on a personal level, many of us grow up with, I mean, it depends on what kind of religious upbringing you got. So many of us grow up with a certain kind of traditional religious upbringing, whether you were Jewish or Christian or Muslim or Hindu or Buddhist or whatever. If you had this very dogmatic and harsh uh, upbringing where the religion was punished into you, maybe even traumatized into you, and there's a lot of fear and shame, and so your parents and your community, your teachers, they didn't really understand the teachings and the principles, and so they were just I mean, they were trying their best, but they were trying to instill the religion into you. And yeah, so what this means is that as a kid, you have a lot of negative, like your belief system is bound up with a lot of negative emotional schemas and pain and trauma, you know, so it's drilled and drummed and damaged into them in a sense. They either grow up to be like that themselves and to inflict that kind of religiosity on their own children later in life, and they grow up applying the rules and the regulations and the taboos of the religion in this mechanical way, and they pray in a mechanical way. There's no understanding, you know, the prefrontal cortex, no links have ever been built there, you know, so they can tend to be quite volatile, you know. So if you poke them in the axioms, they can tend to explode like, what you know, don't question them. So you're just supposed to accept it all on faith completely. And yeah, but there's these other people who get this kind of dogmatic, harsh religious upbringing who reject that particular mode of religion, whether you were a Christian or a Muslim, and they turn towards something else, or they go through a process of self exploration and discovery and trying to understand their place in the world, trying to unfurl their spiritual and intellectual wings. Another kid with a different family, these parents and teachers and communities, they inspire the kids, you know, they tell them the beautiful stories from the religion, the heroes of the faith, and they sing them the beautiful songs, and they make an attempt to link the rules and the regulations and the taboos to something real, and to help the child to understand it, you know, to socialize them into the culture, and through the culture into their relationships and their lives and their work and their careers and all of that, you know. So these kids are much more emotionally self-regulated, but their belief system, their religiosity is inspired. It's inspiring, it's uplifting, it's empowering. But when something happens to you, you know, like you get hit with a tragedy, something really bad happens to you, you lose someone you really love, someone close to you, a partner or child, or you lose a lot of money, or your home, or whatever it is, whatever kind of tragedy befalls us. And you know, those people who have this superficial and shallow kind of faith that's not something they can think about and understand, then that whole value system, belief system can suddenly collapse, because like, why did this loving God, you told me that God loves me and wants the best for me, but now this thing happened to me, and it's not an intellectual thing, it's an emotional thing, so it hits you right in the emotional root of your belief system, and then it collapses, boom. And now these types, they start to look for intellectual reasons and explanations, and so they have this very elaborate, and a lot of it is grounded in good proper science, but a lot of it is not. So again, just framing the conversation, I haven't even actually got